We all watch the NBA, don't we? But do you know the craziest things that are happening? It is pretty much disturbing as well as funny. So these are the most bizarre incidents in NBA history. Hello and welcome back to Backboard, the one-time stop where you can know about all the secrets. Today we will see about the craziest stories in NBA history. Do subscribe to the channel Backboard and hit the bell icon for more interesting content. First up, this is James Harden's dirty little secret. We all know that Harden only needed to blow a bag to become famous, which is why the Rockets gave him the largest contract in NBA history. He couldn't simply steal $1 million, build a giant home, or score some busts like other NBA players could. He had already spent $1 million, so one night in Houston, Harden found an even better way to spend it. Because Joe Budden spent so much money in one strip club, he claimed on his podcast that James Harden's jersey is hanging in the rafters there rather than in an NBA arena. Girls would have been content with some Jacksons or Hamiltons, but Harden was out here tossing a stack simply to watch him return it. However, pay attention, the craziest part isn't even that. Since that night, Harden's performance has declined. He used to average over 30 points each game, now he barely scores 20, and he simply can't help himself whenever he hears the term club. Yes, things are awful, but not as bad as the NBA player who grew up in a war zone. Anthony Davis did not have a typical upbringing. He was the normal reverse, and whenever he stepped outdoors, there was either a music video being shot or a boom. But believe it or not, this was not even frightening to him. 80's greatest dread was going to bed at night. If you asked him what aspect of himself he would most like to improve, he would say his fear of the dark. And when we asked how terrifying it was, he said things like night lights everywhere, like TV on, bathroom light on, whatever may have to be on. But anyone who hears this would tell him that he doesn't need to be afraid. If someone is out there, simply show them your unibrow. For genuine, he had some amazing teammates in the 1980s who attempted to help him conquer his phobia. Going on third, a few weeks after his passing, Baron Davis started saving lives. The king desired to divert his attention from another NBA championship. He therefore gathered his lads for a trip because his only thought was, why the hell would I spend my summer in Cleveland? Therefore, it was obvious that the guys were traveling to the Bahamas and that they would experience LeBron's suffering as soon as they arrived. So they let him pick the first activity, and as we all know, he was about to drink some wine and go a bit wild, but soon they made a decision to do something other NBA players lacked the guts to do. He convinced the squad to snag a banana boat, and the game cruised out to the middle of the ocean, and life was good. Fourth, the murder of Joel Embiid. Growing up in Cameroon, his only goal was to gain the respect of his community, but his basketball prowess was never sufficient. He knew he had to do something that no other athlete had the guts to do, despite his hopes of being a professional one day. In an interview, he stated, "I had to go into the bush when I was around 6 years old to kill the lions. So I walked into the jungle. I pulled a lion out, causing him to fall asleep, and then I killed him and carried the line back to the hamlet on my back." Things were considerably different in 2004. Westbrook was a 15-year-old basketball player who was fortunate to play alongside his best friend, KELSEY. Day and night, these boys practiced all over the city until coach Reggie Morris took Russ into the team early. Even as a 10th grader, he was dominating college players. We had won 4 or 5 straight games, and I recall that KELSEY was playing perhaps his best game in a long time. As we went to sit down on the side, he was joking and laughing with a few of the young guys before he kind of collapsed. He then took a big breath of air, and when I got to the hospital, he just fell back. When his heart stopped in front of Westbrook, KELSEY's father informed me as he drew me to the side and told me that he had passed. It came out that KELSEY had an undiagnosed cardiac issue. Moving on, the modern-day equivalent of Howard Cosell might be Marv Albert. He has become well known for calling athletic events thanks to one of the most recognizable voices and play calls of all time. For 37 years, Albert served as both an NBC announcer and the New York Knicks color analyst. Even after his charges in 1997, which were a little revealing of his private life that we didn't know about, Albert was still one of the top announcers in the world. According to a woman who claimed to have dated Albert for 10 years, the famous announcer threw her onto a hotel bed before forcing her to perform numerous filthy acts, biting her 15 times and engaging in sodomy. He would enter a guilty plea to misdemeanor charges of assault and battery after DNA tests established that the bite marks were in fact his. Additionally, it was said that Albert's joy was dressing in women's pants. Isn't it crazy? Next up, we have the NBA curse. When the NBA curse first appeared, hotelier William B. Scriven employed a maid by the name of Billy. I won't get into details now, but when the two engaged in illicit behavior, she began extorting money. In an effort to come to a reasonable agreement, he met Billy one evening at the top of his building. However, after a contentious argument, Scriven practically locked her in the room and wouldn't let her. She hurled herself out the window on the hotel's 10th story after realizing that help wasn't going to arrive anytime soon. But she didn't truly leave, since these days, whenever NBA teams are due to play in OKC, the NBA always books hotels there. However, she encounters each player that stays here. Everyone in the league who was aware of her admitted this, since this is no joke. There's a reason Kyrie Irving spent one night here and is already working on a documentary on haunted hotels, after all. I'm not sure why the NBA keeps sending players to stay in this hotel, but perhaps they find it amusing that some of the players are more afraid to go to sleep at night than Anthony David. But while we're on the subject of OKC, let's lighten the mood by recalling the incident in 2011 in which an NBA player was so badly tricked that he had to be restrained from punching his teammate in the behind. Because the Thunder sought to establish a dynasty, they were ahead of their time. The world was in Kevin Durant's favor. James Harden, who had the chance to become a star, was OKC's sixth man, and it was challenging for him to fit in that position, even though he had been on the team for 2 years and hadn't missed a single game. In order to strengthen the second unit's backcourt, the Thunder later that year decided to add another guard. And who better to add than Nate Robinson? But it didn't take him long to start causing havoc. He is a troll, which explains why his stint with OKC only lasted 4 games. It's all because of what he did that one time that James became so enraged. James was going to fight him when he played a joke on him with his car. Next up, we have a story about Dwight Howard. When playing with Wizards in 2019, things got extra fruity. Dwight was suffering from acute gluteal pain. He hurt his ass, and Dwight seems to be hiding something. He did, however, spend most of the season spectating from the sidelines and working behind the scenes, spending the majority of his time healing or in rehab, as we once believed. Due to the fact that Dwight was suddenly served with a lawsuit from a man who was claiming him. Dwight was in a position similar to friends with benefits, so this person told all the media that he was hiding in the closet. When Dwight learned of this, he was forced to go public. Regardless of whether it was genuine or not, now that I am aware of this, I actually feel horrible for Dwight. NBA players occasionally have stories they simply don't want to be public. Their embarrassing mishaps, addictions, and murders, such as those in this video here. And let's wrap up. Did you enjoy the video? Which incident do you think the craziest is? Let me know in the comments section below, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel Backboard and hit the bell icon for more interesting content. Let's meet in the next video, and until then, bye!